So I want to talk about why it's dangerous for people to keep having to publicly state that they are praying for Trump. Okay? So in the US, we're a country of many different religions and faiths. To say that all of them are taken as seriously as each other is disingenuous, right? That's as if saying just because we say all folks are created equal to the law, that means that the application of the law means that we all get treated the same. We know that's not true, right? We know that in particular, the biggest religion in the U.S. is that of Christianity. And not just that of Christianity that has impacted the law, right? But when we talk about what impacts the law, we're talking about a type of Christianity that comes from a realm of white supremacy, that comes from a realm of colonization, that comes from slave masters and monarchies, that, comes from folks who were invested in manifest destiny, all those different things, right? And so there's a very particular branch and theology within Christianity that impacts our laws and the application of the laws in the U.S. I deeply, deeply believe that because we see it in politicians, we see it all over the place, right? And so do not worry about praying for Trump because ICE agents will be praying for Trump, right? Police officers will be praying for Trump. The judicial system in the U.S., the Supreme Court will be praying for Trump. The medical industry, not the people on the front lines that would save you and get your heart to start beating again, but I'm talking about the people that make money off the hospital, the people that make the money off the pharmaceutical drugs will be praying for Trump, right? Wall Street will be praying for Trump, right? The reality is that empathy for people that are violent is already there, right? We have such a theology of violence that exists in this nation, right? And when I'm saying a theology of violence, I'm saying that usually within our faith communities, in particular Abrahamic traditions, so not all faith traditions, but specifically when we talk about Abrahamic faith traditions, so Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, we're talking about violence from the perspective of either one, don't do violence, two, if you're going to do violence, this is how much violence you can do, or three, if you're going to do violence, this is the type of violence that you can do to these specific types of people, right? So largely within that is not how do we actually support survivors, right? When you say, I'm praying for Trump, right, and I'm praying for these other people too, what you're saying is that their journeys or their struggles are the same or equitable, right? There's so much energy given to Trump already. This is not someone who creates trauma because he experienced lots of trauma. This is someone who creates trauma, who creates violence because he was given no boundaries throughout the entirety of his life and has the power to murder hundreds of thousands of people. This is a man who has sexually assaulted young people, right? Who is allegedly sexually assaulted young people, right? Who will never see their day in court or who have not seen it yet, right? This is a man who allows for the separation of families, right? And children. This is a man who rallied to have young black kids put up on death row, right? This is the person that we're talking about whose people that he has caused harm against he has never, ever had to be accountable for or to, right? And so I want us to imagine when we're saying these things, we're feeling compelled, because whatever you do in your house is your effing business, right? But in the public eye, I want us to think about the ways that we practice faith, our religion, actually bleeds out into how people are treated on the street, how people are treated by the law, how people are treated in their families, all this kind of stuff. And we consistently find ways within theological realms to be kind to oppressive people and to violent people, right? What does a theology of actually centering survivors look like? Why do I have to announce to everyone, I'm praying for Trump because I'm such a great person? Can you actually think about what does it mean to be one of these young kids who's had to accuse Trump in court or try to get Trump in court to even talk about the sexual assault pieces? Can you imagine the people who were ripped from their families entirely, right? And what does it mean to have to see this person being prayed for and prayed over when their justice hasn't been met yet? Justice does not mean that everybody always has to be, getting the same amount of attention, right? Trump gets enough attention. He does not also need your kindness and your prayers, right? Even if we're talking especially around the Christianity piece, right? Satan got thrown out of heaven. I don't know what y'all reading, but that's what I know, right? And so there's got to be a place in which we decenter this narrative where we have to go rush to comfort oppressors. Like, who cares? Like, you don't have to wish for his death or what have you, which, This is Instagram, so I'm not going to say nothing like that. That's ridiculous. But you do have to recenter and think about, why are you rushing so much to be kind to someone that has not asked for your forgiveness and does not deserve it, right? Does not deserve it. And what can you do to actually turn that energy, instead of like rushing, like, oh, I heard something bad happen to this really terrible person, instead of like thinking that you can be above all that and do this. I want us to be responsible with our faith and think about, how, again, do we turn that to survivors? That's all I'm saying. Like, if you got the smoke for that, have even more smoke for survivors of the violence. Have even more smoke to create a theology that does not mean that people that have actually had to experience the direct harm of this person have to watch people bending over backwards to be kind about him. That's absurd, and it's violent, and survivors shouldn't have to deal with that, right? One of the things that I think many of y'all know that I'm working on right now is creating a theology for survivors, because I think this is a major gap in the ways that we talk about religion and faith, not just around the Abrahamic traditions, but around many different traditions. And so if you're a person who wants to kind of continue that conversation about what is actually a theology for survivors look like, I'm going to leave a survey in the description of this video. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm saving all my prayer points for other people and other things. And I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful day. And yeah, that's it. Have a beautiful, wonderful day to everybody that is not 45.